Did you know that basically you can paint one type of metal, this is steel, with another type of metal, this is copper, and really you don't even need any special tools or fancy equipment. This is copper sulfate, pentahydrate crystals, whatever that means. Copper sulfate is an inorganic compound made up of copper and sulfur. Technically, I think it's a salt. Also, it looks a lot like blue raspberry candy, but I'm not going to eat it, at least not in this video. It also happens to be exactly what we need to paint this piece of steel with copper. The first thing we need to do is to dissolve the copper sulfate in a little bit of water. This is just ordinary tap water, and I don't really know the correct mixture, like how much copper sulfate to add to how much water, so I'm just kind of winging it here. After a few minutes, all the crystals have dissolved into the water, leaving us with copper sulfate solution, which happens to be a very pleasant shade of blue. Now, we simply submerge our steel into the solution and wait. What happens next is kind of like magic, but I guess technically it's science. Obviously, we aren't actually painting the steel with copper because copper sulfate isn't paint. What you're witnessing is a chemical reaction called displacement. I guess basically the iron in the steel displaces itself with the copper in the solution. They kind of trade places. The copper deposits itself on the steel, and the steel deposits itself in the solution. In fact, if I were to put enough steel into this solution and leave it there long enough, eventually that iron would displace all of the copper in this solution, turning it green and changing it into an iron sulfate solution instead of copper, which I think is kind of amazing, even if I'm just a dumb machinist who doesn't really understand how it all works.